I joined the London Camera Club several years ago when they were still judging slides. I had a passion for horses, knew how they should be photographed, but had to learn how to use the equipment I had to make it happen. I had a DSLR, but didn't know how to change the lenses, didn't know shutter speed, aperture, or exposure, let alone what it meant when it came to taking a photograph. I was a point-and-shoot photographer, but I did end up becoming an award-winning photographer, and I was granted professional status by Nikon. I went from one extreme to the other. Because I have experienced the trials and tribulations of being a rank amateur photographer, and know what it took to become one that is confident and successful, I have a unique insight into the needs of both the novice and advanced level photographers in the club. Not all of you will be familiar with who I am and what I've done, as I've been on sabbatical recently. My life did a 180 and a backflip about a year and a half ago, and I ended up in a job that was stressful, time-consuming, and not in London. But I'm happy to report that as of March 1st, I'm back home, and I'm looking forward to getting my life back and spending more time with my camera around my neck. So I come back to you with a clear mind, renewed energy, and the ideas I couldn't get fully implemented in the past, and a few new exciting ones. I've proven that I can take an idea, make it into reality, and be successful doing it. Take, for example, the workshops I developed and presented. 2 in Photoshop and 1 for Photoshop Elements. The workshops were custom designed to what the members needed and wanted, based on a questionnaire I developed and distributed. I then tailor-made the course to focus on the responses. How do I know I was successful? Well, here are some of the comments. This was an incredible learning experience. You are obviously very knowledgeable at Photoshop and a very good teacher. You have a very good way of explaining things so that they make sense. Excellent day. Thank you. Thanks for the effort. Much appreciated. Can I hire you for private lessons? No joke. Love that it was done not as a lecture, but as a conversation. Then there was the photography affair. The concept for the event sat in my mind for 2 years. In the year that I sat on the education committee, I brought it to life. It was a huge undertaking to plan and coordinate, but it produced record attendance and generated record revenue for the club. Some of the comments for that day included: organized perfectly. Loved it. More workshops. Great idea, should be an annual event. This was a great workshop, great turnout, which is proof of the interest and appreciation. Do it again! One of the best days I've been to. Lots of bang for the buck. I can hardly wait until next year. So I've had a few good ideas, and I still have a few that I haven't tackled yet, and then there are the ones that I've been involved with that can be taken to the next level. Tip of the week. I love this idea. It's an original. I have learned from teaching others that we all learn in different ways. Photography is not an easy craft to master. There are too many variables. The hobby is dynamic and the equipment ever-changing to keep up with it. So I want to develop a program where we break it down into smaller pieces. The concept is this, and it can be tweaked as we go along. Spend 5 minutes of each week where we can share something that we've found useful in our learning process. This could be a book that we've purchased and found particularly useful, a piece of equipment that was worth the price, or an answer to a question a member proposed the previous week. This could include the techniques or equipment that we need in order to take a photograph where movement is implied, or what settings you might use when you're photographing a concert indoors without a flash. How perspective can be very important in an image, and it all depends on your angle of view when you take the image. How raw processing can really help out when you have your white balance set to flash, and that's not at all the way you're shooting. To help someone understand high dynamic range, what it means, how to do it. Just when you think an image pops, there's always something else you can do to make it look better. To help explain why the details in the shadows and highlights are so important, and how on an overcast day you can get some of the best images. These 5-minute snippets can help to indicate what topics are popular with the members, which will assist us in developing a program to best meet your needs. I would also hope that this idea will introduce members to each other so they can further discuss topics together and meet each other, and engage the more advanced and experienced photographers to share what they know. To top it off, we can keep a journal of all the helpful tips and ideas presented throughout the year and post them on the website so you can always refer back to them. Post-processing challenge. I really like this idea too. It's another Jackie original. Because one of the things that I've learned along the way and from my students is that we struggle to understand what we should be doing with our images to improve them. Inherent to digital photography, you need to sharpen and add contrast to your images. This can be done in camera, but post-processing allows you more freedom to do this. The other thing that's very difficult for people is to try and imagine what their image could potentially look like. And if you can't visualize that, you'll never be able to understand how to get there. Photoshop is a huge learning curve. Now there's a debate between whether Lightroom or Photoshop is better. There are plugins galore that change the dynamics of images beyond your wildest dreams. Photoshop Elements continues to become more automated, and then there are all the freebie plugins and downloads. How is one to choose? Wouldn't it be interesting to take an image and see what a handful of photographers in the club would do with it? This is really an opportunity for the skilled users and anyone who wants to make the attempt to pull something together and create it, demonstrating to the members what an image could look like, because the possibilities are infinite, and then to help them understand how it is that you get to that point. Tier judging. Any discussion around judging has always been highly contentious and fiercely debated, but I think it's time we take a serious look at the process again. This year, the number of monthly submissions for the judging competitions is down approximately 50%, and the submissions are coming from the same group of about 21 individuals. This fact can be caused by any number of different reasons, but might it be that the current judging process has contributed to the decline? I can relate to the apprehension felt around entering images for judging, being judged on the same criteria as the advanced photographers, having images that are technically weak because I don't understand the techniques or post-processing requirements. I remember what it was like to hear that my image is underexposed but not understand how to fix it in the camera or after the fact. I remember hearing comments about leading lines and rules of third and not understanding what either of these terms meant. And just as an aside, when you do understand, you will never forget. Perhaps it's time for tiered judging where novice, intermediate, and advanced photographers are judged on their capabilities within their own peer group, where, for example, the judging is slightly different for novice photographers, and they receive more constructive feedback than advanced photographers. Is it going to be easy to implement? Not likely, but in the end it will be worthwhile to those who participate. Isn't it all about learning? If this is what the membership wants, if this is what the membership needs, then we, as your elected executive, will undertake to find a way to make it happen. As for my qualifications for the role, I've held senior management roles requiring a great deal of organization and cooperation with a variety of personalities. I've held 2 different positions on the executive in the past, vice president and treasurer. I've sat on the education committee. I've been a participating judge. Not only have I lived the experience of transitioning from a point-and-shoot photographer to an award winner, I have been reminded from the students I've taught of the struggles we all have in developing our talents. This club is by nature of our hobby dynamic, and that means change is always imminent, and this is as good a time as any for change.